Welcome back. If you are new here, welcome today on Awakening Airwaves. This particular podcast is for conscious consumption. So if you are looking to listen to more of these, they come out every third Friday of the month. And you could find the playlist for conscious consumption on YouTube, and you can listen to it on all major platforms. So Apple, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and of course, YouTube. So today I am joined by a guest, a very special guest to me. This is my mother. I have my mother, Jenny Hendricks, who is here with me. I wanted to have her on the show because my mother played a large role in my life with how I kind of came back full circle to this holistic world. And I wanted her to share a little bit about her story because I find it very interesting. I think a lot of you will find it interesting, just as far as the massage therapy background and the time frame of when she came into it and stepped into it. So, Mama, hello, welcome.
Good morning, sweetheart.
Like I told you before, I want to have you on here just to share a little bit about your story, and in particular around the massage therapy school that you owned. So, if you wouldn't mind just sharing a little bit about um, the massage therapy in particular. So, going back, first of all, I want to step back in time because the massage therapy school, when you first started your training, was in the early 80s. And so I wanted you to share a little bit about that and just kind of your background, what you were doing before, because what you were doing before was quite different than obviously the therapeutic background. So if you could share a little bit about that.
Okay, I was mostly in interior design, had a little bit of my own business there, and I also worked for other companies too. But sales and design was my main thing at that time in the mid 80s.
And how did you step into massage therapy, if you could share with the listeners?
Well, my husband at that time that I was married to, Serena's father, uh, was a competitive bodybuilder and had a bad back and wanted me to work on him all the time. So I decided that I'd go to massage school and he agreed to it. And that's how I got into it and did. I loved it so much. And my instructor told me I was a natural at it. So I wound up staying in it for a number of years and really loved it and progressed from there.
So, and this was, can you kind of paint a picture of the timeline? Because from my memory, I remember it being in the mid 80s. When was it that you actually started your training? So, before you owned the school, when did you go into the massage therapy itself?
The, it was the beginning of the year in 1985.
Okay.
I was, yeah,
So, that's when you started the
and
training, I think. Okay.
right,
And so, one thing that I always found to be really interesting as I got older and had a better understanding of, the world that that was at the time is massage therapy wasn't super it wasn't mainstream like today when you say massage therapy, people know what you're talking about. Back then, I think that
right,
there was some people that might have a different understanding of what that is. Some people might have kind of a negative sense of what that is. So for you, how did you kind of step into that world and help people, have that clarity of mind of what you were about and what you were sharing with the world as
yeah.
you learned that?
I'm glad you asked that question because I came from a very loving family, but they were very old-fashioned too. And so they didn't quite understand what massage was when I was first starting into it. And massage had just started gaining popularity more in the mid 80s because that's when sports massage was beginning to be known. But unfortunately, I still had to deal with the bad rep bad rap, I should say, that massage therapy had because people just said, "Oh, massage, that's the massage parlor, and you could get more than just a massage."
Yeah.
And there were some people that made it bad for everyone else, but for the most part, my timing was perfect because sports massage was just coming into our country where it was gaining popularity in the mid 80s. And like I said, I started my class in 85, the beginning of the year. So it was perfect timing because you not only had sports massage, you had Reiki, and some other types of massage that were getting more and more popular. And so people realized this is serious business. It's for helping people and for relaxing them and for healing them. And so my timing really was perfect. And even to this day, massage has a bad rap. And you have to be very careful how you present it to people sometimes.
Well, and something that you just said that I was thinking about too is just the language of it, because I think if someone is speaking in terms of massage and kind of what I want to say is a derogatory, right? A derogatory, right? Right? Like if you're saying
Mhm.
like masseuse, like it's very different than if you're saying massage therapist or massage practitioner. And so I think one thing that kind of was clear in my mind, even growing up, was when I was in your classes and around the different students and the different instructors and whatnot, you had a way of speaking to them to making it a very professional, therapeutic environment, even just through your voice of sharing how you were using the language and how you were talking to them. And you weren't using terms like masseuse or, whatever, rub down or anything like that. Not to make a joke
Mhm.
about it, but I think that's what kind of draws the line in the sand too, is how you speak to people and speak to the public about it, how you're sharing the information. And something I wanted to say just really quick and kind of ask you about, because you were mentioning the sports massage and, these different things that you were kind of seeing during that time. Once you stepped into owning your school and teaching these different techniques, not necessarily that you were just do these different ones, but I remember, obviously a few, but if you could kind of speak to the different styles and types that you shared, so all
Okay.
encompassing all the different ones that you shared and kind of what those were, because I thought that was very interesting too, because it wasn't just one particular style, as with many things, right? With dance, anything, but they each
Right.
had a very specific, healing component to them. So,
Yes. The main thing when I got into doing massage therapy, the school was called College of Massage, Western College of Massage, and I changed it when I bought the school to Western College of Therapeutic Massage. And so I'm glad you talked a little bit about that too, the wording. But anyway, when I was taking the class, we did a style that was mainly called Swedish massage, and that was mainly what they taught. Um, Also, we did an introduction to aromatherapy using different scents to relax the person, um, to energize them, just calm them down, and a number of things. There's so many different styles. Reiki is not something I've ever taught, and I didn't have much experience with it, which I still don't, and I'm very interested in that now, learning more about it. But working with the person's energy, and by doing acupressure on the feet, which is something I did do a little bit of teaching in acupressure. Um, I learned a little bit about the energy meridians working on the feet because of the acupressure points and the meridians you have on the bottom of your feet, the pressure points. And then sports massage was where I was really interested. And so I did a little bit of demonstration on sports massage and also on deep tissue because that's my interest. But I learned very little about it in my classes in the beginning, but then I kept adding on to the class,
as
learning
you would
more.
evolve too. Yeah.
Yes, and
Yeah.
once I own the school, I start having teachings on, we might spend 20 hours on the weekend doing sports massage or deep tissue. Um, and then S salon. that was a very calming, relaxing massage where if somebody's really stressed out, um, you might want to start with Essalon because it really calms them down. You're drawing the blood away from the heart and you're doing very slow, softer touch than what you would with your other strokes that you do and other massage, like sports massage, deep
Hmm.
tissue, and so on, and Swedish massage. But Swedish massage is the main base that we started with. And then once you've taken all these other classes, you could introduce these things to your massage for people's needs, whether they're athletes, whether they're stressed out mentally or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, which I love. And I have to mention too, because when you were talking about the acupressure and the meridians and all that, it made me think of so silly, but something that I always think of are the socks for reflexology. But
Oh,
how you have like
they still say,
I know, and that's what I think of. But so you used to do the reflexology too, and I remember that because I ended up picking up a lot of points too on how to do certain things and how things would correlate the bottoms of our feet with other organs and other parts of our
mhm,
body. And it was so interesting to me. But anyways, there were these socks for those of you that may not be totally familiar with, but they're really interesting. So you put the socks on, the bottom of the socks would actually have the little pictures of this is where your liver is. This correlates with this correlates with that. And
mhm.
so it was really funny because you had all these different colors that would say like liver, brain, whatever. Like it was just or
Yeah,
head, whatever. But it was really funny. But I always think of that when you talk about even just with acupressure, because I think of, the points and the bottom of the feet and whatnot.
yeah.
And then something else that I remember you getting into, and still today, I remember like 5 years ago, 4 years ago, I asked you to do it on me, and that was an experience. But can you share a little bit about, because I think the cupping wasn't really a thing back then. I mean, it was, but it wasn't here in the US. It wasn't something that you
Right.
really heard about in North America quite, like I feel like that was very new back then in the 80s. But I remember you used to have these. Can you actually, why don't you share a little bit about what you used to do? And I know, like, just as you people are listening, don't ever try this because this is probably the more dangerous way of doing it. But I know you were very safe with it. But share a little bit about the cupping process and the purpose of it too, like what it did.
Okay. In those days, it was completely different. Where I had baby food jars, I would buy baby food and use the jars. I'd have maybe 5 or 6 on site. But what I would do for demonstration, and I always demonstrated very, I was very clear with my students of to be extremely cautious when they did this. But I would have a little cup of water nearby because you start out, like, say you're working on someone's back, and the purpose of working on these areas, like, say somebody has tight muscles on their traps or on their back, along the spine, whatever, where the muscles are just bound up. When your muscles get bound up like that, the blood gets very stagnant in that area and it cuts off the circulation too when the muscle's tight, and that's how the blood gets stagnant and stuck there. And so by putting this cup that you take a cotton swab, soak it in alcohol, light a match, and then you blow out and you put that, you hold tweezers and put that swab in the cup, not letting go, but holding it in place to take all the air out of the cup and then pull back the swab and put it in the cup of water, which is a big pain. Nowadays, there's something much more modern where you don't have to
Yeah.
do the fire or
I know
anything.
it's really
There's
interesting what they have
suction
now.
cups,
Yeah.
basically. Yeah, so it's so
Much
much better. And I
safer.
haven't tried the new devices, only the old ones. And I tried the old ones even last year once when you
Yeah.
asked me to show you again how to do that. But anyway, what she would do is take that cup, put it on the spot after you've done everything you needed to get the air out of it, and you would slowly move it around very slowly on that area and around that area. And it would suck up the muscle a little bit into that cup so that there'd be a little bubble of your skin and your muscle, and you'd move it around and it would start relaxing because it was drawing more blood to that area. And you always had to explain to your clients or people you were demonstrating to that sometimes they will be left with a red mark in a
Yeah, the
lot of
little red
cases for a
circles.
while.
Yeah.
And you can't prevent that 100%,
Yeah.
but you can prevent it some by moving that cup. And you don't want to stay in one spot and not move it because they will definitely bruise and turn red. And they think that's a really bad thing, but it really is not because that helped the muscle so much. You just explain to them that they will be red for a while. Sometimes it lasts maybe 1 or 2 days, but preferably not.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I always thought it was a really interesting technique. And then knowing the benefits too of how it would help. I want to actually kind of go back to something that you said at the very beginning when you were talking about initially getting into massage therapy, getting into it to work on your husband at the time, my dad. But when you did that initially, he was doing bodybuilding and everything. Something that we didn't really touch on that I was wondering, just actually, I'm trying to think of a way that I could kind of share this, but it wasn't you stepping into the massage therapy world was a big step for you, not just because you were going from this different career of, interior design and window coverings and all that, but also because you came from a very controlling background as far as your environment. And we don't have to go into that, but just to kind of touch on that a little bit. So there's a little bit of an understanding that for you to do massage therapy, for you to even be able to accept touch when you went through an abusive background was a big deal. But then also for you to also quote unquote be allowed, which I really don't even like saying that, but that really was what it was, is trying to make somebody else comfortable with the idea of you doing this thing. But how did you kind of overcome that? The First of all, how did you overcome being able to have your own voice in a class? Because I know that that was something that was very difficult for you, because for so many years you weren't allowed to speak up. But then also for you to get into a teaching role where you had to project your voice, use your voice. And then also how with the therapy, the actual massage therapy of you being touched, if you were on the receiving end, but also touching
Yeah.
others. As far as the healing part of that, how did that kind of like help you? How did you step into that? How did that kind of mold you? And how were you able to overcome where you came from, stepping out of where you stepped from?
Wow, that's a really good question. There's a lot to it. Um, now, I was 35 at the time. I mentioned that before. And yeah, I was in an abusive marriage. And it was really, I never used to talk in front of people very much. I was very withdrawn and quiet, which is hard to believe because of where I'm
Now,
at now in
if
life. I
people knew
talk
you
to
now.
everybody,
Yeah.
strangers all the time. But anyway, it the massage class was teaching me how to touch people in a way that was very calming and teaching me to trust myself.
Yeah.
And also by me getting massage from all my um, classmates and such, it helped heal me because I was being touched in a different way. And it's such a powerful thing when you're on the table and somebody you don't know is touching you and you have to let go and trust that person with you. And it took a long time, but that's what healed me. And that's what taught me to be a strong person, too. It was later on, after doing this, class and other classes and trusting people, but to actually I know we'll probably talk about the school more, but by me getting involved in that, it took a long time, yes, and it probably took years, but it did heal me. And during going through class, I hadn't got my voice yet where I was confident to talk in front of people. That wasn't until later. Um, I don't know if you want to touch on that more or wait.
Yeah, no,
So,
you can. Go ahead. Yeah, please do.
okay. Anyway, once after, my instructor, which was the owner of the school, after I'd been there a while, a year or something, he asked me, he said, because I started helping him right after I graduated from the school, actually, and helping him. But I had to have a person help me teach the night class because they had to talk for me because I hadn't felt confident enough to talk in front of people. And so I had somebody else that would talk while I demonstrated and did the massage, and they would explain what I was doing and such. And that went on for, gosh, not not quite a year, but maybe close to it. And then finally I gained my voice and more. As all the different types of people I dealt with through the school, I became very strong as far as an individual. I felt confident about myself and what I was doing, but I also knew I was helping people.
Yeah,
And so it was a lot, but it was very powerful. I'm sorry.
you're okay. You could take water too if you need. Um,
I need to, could you freeze for a minute or talk?
could I freeze? I could stop for a minute. I mean, you could just take a sip while I I go
I
on to
don't
the.
have water. I'm
Oh,
going to get some.
that's why. Okay, you're okay, Mom. Okay, we're back. We had to get some water there. So I
Thank
didn't know what
you.
you meant. I thought you meant just like freeze and then you were going to take a sip. I was like, no, go ahead. I didn't know you meant you wanted me to stop the recording. Uh, that's great for everyone listening right now, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, so thank you for sharing all that, Mom. Something for it's so funny because if you knew my mom, which even if you didn't know her and you were meeting her for the first time, you'd instantly become friends with her because just even when she travels to visit me out here in Arizona, she lives in California. Um, she ends up making a bunch of friends along the way, and I'm not exaggerating. It's just hilarious to me listening to this story because it really is a story of healing. And I think it's so beautiful because, the person that she is today is not the person that she was, uh, at the age of 35. And obviously, we all change through the years and everything else and evolve within ourselves, stepping into our own selves and our own healing journey. But I really wanted her to share because, she really did come from a background. She overcame so much. She was in a very controlling background where she wasn't allowed to have a voice. And where, I don't want to go super deep into it, but it was a very dark setting. So for her to be where she is now, just even in herself and in her voice, be able to go on and make friends like she does. And I laugh because like literally we'll go to a store and I'll like leave her for a minute and come back and she's like hugging someone goodbye. And I'm like, who was that? And she's like, oh, I just met him, blah, blah, blah. She's just like, and it's so funny because I'm not there. That's not who I am. And so I giggle and laugh because I absolutely love it. But it's very fun to see knowing where she came from. And gosh, like when you were talking about how you had to have somebody, I think it really paints the picture too. When you were talking about the night class and having somebody that had to verbally walk through the techniques while you were demonstrating on someone else is like incredible that you went from that to then owning the school and then teaching so many classes. Because I remember you used to have it was like, if I remember correctly, it was like 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. The 2 weeks on were the day classes, which were like all day long. And then I remember the night classes went on for like a longer period of time. But I remember you were teaching like all the time. What year was it that you ended up actually purchasing this school? Can you share a little bit? And if you don't know
Oh,
the exact year, it's okay.
gosh. Um, I'm sorry. I should have
Okay.
really had. I think it was in 87.
Okay. Yeah.
Wait,
So like a couple
no, wait,
years or
I'm
something.
sorry.
It's
No,
okay.
I'm sorry. It was,
I feel like it was 87 or 88. And the only reason why I say that
yeah,
is because I remember there's a picture of me in front of a Christmas tree with Bill Hoff and Dad, and then somebody else. It's just funny. But in the hardware pants, do you remember the 80s hardware pants?
yes. In fact, you know what?
Those are like
That
those
was
baggy
in,
Hammer, MC
I
Hammer
believe
pants we used to wear.
that was, yes.
But
I have a picture of Mark
I know.
and your dad, and
So Mark is my stepdad, who's been in the
and
picture
he's the most
for many
wonderful
years.
man that I
Yes.
met at the school. And a couple of years later, he came back into the picture because he was one of my students
Yeah.
at the time. But anyway,
Yeah, it was
most
more than a couple.
incredible
Yeah, it was
husband
more
I
than a
could ever
couple of
have.
years though. But yeah.
Well, yeah,
But yeah.
yeah.
But but yeah. So I wanted to ask you too, because another thing that stands out in my mind that I think is just so potent, it was you really did have this way of drawing in so many different types of people. And I met so many types of people. And I shouldn't say types, so many people with different backgrounds, is what I mean. And just to kind of, paint a picture, um, I mean, pick people with all styles of gifts, people that were all different, cultural backgrounds, religions. I'm trying to think of the most respectful way to say this, but like even bicycle gangs that like came through the class, like it was really, really wild. Um,
I don't
but
think they call them bicycle gangs.
well, I'm not bicycle. Oh my gosh, I just said bicycle. You know what I mean? Motorcycle. I meant motorcycle, not a oh my gosh. Not a
Oh
bicycle
my,
gang.
I think
Sorry.
we messed up there.
That's
Ah,
okay. I'll get it
that
back. I'm
I did have
sorry.
a Hells Angel person in the class too,
Yeah, somebody that was
along
in a
with
motorcycle gang.
I'm glad he wasn't in the class
I'm
when I
sorry.
had the nun in my class and all the
No, yeah.
chiropractors and
But
stuff.
you know what I mean? Like there was people from all walks of life is what I'm trying to say. And it was gosh, I can't stop now. I can't believe it said bicycle. Okay. But yeah, there was somebody from from a motorcycle gang. There were, chiropractors, there were psychics, there were people that did essential oils. I remember I had a palm reader that read my palm one time. Like I got to meet all kinds of wild wild people.
Yes, you did.
I'm so sorry. Um, can you maybe share a little bit about what that was like for you? Because something else that I really see that kind of like helped mold who you are today too, and I think it really is speaks to what's going on today, which we could all take a lesson from, is you
Mhm.
have people that are from all different walks of life. You have people from all different experiences. And that molds and shapes kind of how their thinking is, right? And the reason I
Yeah,
bring this up is because today, with so many things that are going on in the world that are so difficult to experience, to watch, to see, we experience these different emotions with it. And sometimes for people, it could be very heavy where they might then start not being able to hear the other person, not be able to hear the different sides of people as it comes to political views, as it comes to worldly views and these different things. So I really think like with the experience of coming across like so many different types of people and meeting all these different people and this environment that was really built around healing, like that was really such a wild experience. So can you just share a little bit what that was like for you? Because you did meet some incredible people there.
oh yeah. Some of those people became friends with me for, you know, wonderful friends, wonderful chiropractor that I had met through Mark, actually, through the school. But it was incredible. Sometimes it was a little unnerving because of who they were. Um, because there were people with some really strong personalities, some people that were very angry inside too, and that was at times difficult to deal with because they nobody, sometimes my students wouldn't want other students to practice on them
Mhm.
for certain reasons, like
Yeah.
for instance, the guy that was the Hell's Angel, he didn't want just anybody touching him. He didn't want any men working on him, and he wanted somebody that wasn't going to injure him too. So that was difficult at times. Um, One of my favorite students was the nun, a little lady about in her 70s or 80s,
Mhm.
and she was really sweet, and she didn't want anyone in class to know she was a nun because she didn't want to be treated different. Um, at the time, I had people from all walks of life in that class, construction worker, a chiropractor. A lot of nurses came through the school, but then there were people with different gifts that really intrigued me, like the
Yeah.
lady that did Reiki, and I didn't even know what Reiki was, but now I have a thirst for it because when I was doing reflexology, I didn't realize it was a part of energy healing also.
Mhm.
And so it all ties in, with in Reiki with your energy meridians and such, and pressure points. And so, but the people were just incredible. And I learned to love people even more than I already did because no matter what walk of life they were in, they had this part of them inside. If you're going to do massage therapy, you have to care about that person on the table, about helping them, relieving their pain, their stress. And I realized that every single person has to have a voice and be able to feel confident too.
Yeah.
And so it just really helped me. Every person I meet, I feel and I really believe, and a lot of it came from having the school and meeting all these people, is I feel every single person is important and no person should be ignored,
Yeah.
whether you're disabled, you're handicapped in some way, or whether you're a different ethnic background or whatever. We all come from different walks of life and we all have feelings. And the school, I've always cared about people, but more so after learning massage therapy and all that, because you really get into a lot of different feelings and you want to care for everybody when you do massage therapy
Yeah.
because you understand people have pain in so many different ways, whether it's emotional, physical, whatever. And so, in answer to your question, yes, I love people and I give them the benefit of a doubt. And I try not to judge people by the way they look. If they're wearing an ankle bracelet or something, I stay
I know you
in
still
house
chat with
arrest. And
them.
yeah, there, a young man at the gym that I thought was very nice, but I said hi to him because I felt bad too because nobody there would talk to him and stuff. And so I just like to acknowledge people because everyone matters.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be stupid about it, you know, and somebody that looks dangerous and is dangerous, I'm not going to, I get vibes from people too. So,
Well, yeah, we read each other's energy, even I think on a subconscious level. If people aren't super in tune with themselves, I think we
right.
still all sense, even those that aren't super intuitive, when you walk in a room if you get a bad, quote unquote, vibe from somebody or not. Kind of what I was trying to get at with that particular question and what I was really, what I enjoyed that you were sharing is just how it really did like open your heart to everybody with the understanding of we all go through things and
Mhm.
just there's a couple things I want to touch on that you had brought up. One is related to your experience with the Reiki and also the trigger points and these different things that you experience but that tie in with the energy, so I'll come back to that. But what I want to um, what I want to kind of point out on that too is going back to the people part, is it was, just a cool experience to get to see how it was a healing environment on a physical level. It was a healing environment on an emotional level, which you kind of alluded to a little bit. But like the massage therapy, you would have people that came from, different backgrounds. You would have people that carried their own trauma, um, and that would have that being released through these different
Yes.
techniques that you would use on them. So I wanted you to share a little bit about that. So if you could maybe share some of your experiences that you had just with, somebody that you worked on physically and how the emotional stuff showed up in the body, how you were able to
Right.
determine that and how that helped release, and then what else may have shown up on an energetic level too.
Okay. Um, there were a couple of cases where I worked on people that had really bad trauma in their life. And of course, you get all your experience more so out of the school when you're working on your clients and stuff. And one client in particular had so much mental stress that
Shoot,
was
Mom, hold
causing
on.
problems.
I'm so sorry. Hold on. I I'm sorry. So we were having technical difficulty there. So if you could explain a little bit more. So as far as the body goes, when you would have people come in with these different traumas, uh, in their background where it's being held in the body. But it might have been something emotional that's getting stuck in places of the body, which we witness in, if you do energy healing, which I do, in the energy healing world of Reiki or any of that, you experience stagnant energy, which a lot of times is when we're not processing things as we need to with different things. And it shows up in different ways, just like it does with the emotions, right? So we see it on even in the physical area of the body with the muscles and with tension when we're not processing stress as we need to. So if you could share a little bit about that from your experience of, when you would have these clients or have students that did have a background that was really difficult as far as the trauma they experienced and how that showed up in their body and what you kind of witnessed.
Okay. Um, I did have a few clients that actually affected me too, working on them. Um, but anyway, one client in particular, her pain started when she was a toddler in diapers and the abuse that she took. And she was sent to me by a doctor, uh, a psychiatrist. And anyway, I worked on her a number of times, and she had so much trouble relaxing. She would stiffen up, and at times, and there's so many things you could do to make a client feel comfortable. The way you present yourself, the music, the setting, the room, everything. But when a person has so much damage from the past, it takes a lot more, but you can help them. It's just one of these situations that you definitely have to ground yourself to block that negative energy coming in through your body and stuff. And that was one day that no matter how much I tried, she just had so much pain. It was taking so much more for me to ground myself and to not feel her pain that I actually fell apart after this um, session because of her pain coming through and me feeling it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does help them so incredible, so much that it just takes a lot more. And you could feel it trapped in their body, whether it's in their shoulders, their lower back, their stomach. people get stomach problems, headaches, all kinds of emotional problems and physical problems from having this negative energy trapped in their body. And it shows up in their muscles, it shows up in their circulation, it just shows up in so many ways. It just festers inside of them. And so it just takes a lot of work. And I've had other clients that, I've picked up their negative energy and their pain where sometimes people are very dark inside and you feel like some people have demons inside too. And so you always got to be careful and ground yourself and try and keep that negative energy out of your body and let it flow out into the bottom of the floor or whatever. Um, did I get off track there
No,
a little
no, you
bit?
didn't. There was actually a few things that I was thinking of as you were talking about that. Because you said damage, I know you meant baggage because you and I do the same thing where we use like words in a different way. But
Yes.
the emotional stuff that the person is carrying with them, what I wanted to say about that when you were talking about it getting trapped in parts of the body, something that we didn't talk about, but you kind of alluded to with this last comment about the grounding is so you weren't just doing massage therapy like most people do massage therapy. You really had a very strong intention set with each of these people that you were working on, clients.
Oh,
And I wanted you to talk a little bit about the intention that you would set as far as walking us through how you would draw stuff out of the body, how you would kind of infuse the body with these intentions. So if you could, and then the grounding
right.
piece. So if you could share a little bit about that.
It was through prayer and concentration. Um, I would visualize myself taking all their negative energy, starting from the feet, is what I would visualize coming up through their body into my hands and then out of my body down through my feet. And I would also, I when I first put my hands on that person, I would say a prayer for helping God, well, to help heal this person and to take away all their pain and all their negative energy through me and then out of my body. So that prayer and grounding.
Yeah. And then what about the intention? Because one of the things that you had mentioned before when you and I were talking was about the intention that you would kind of you like basically like infuse their body with peace, right? Like you
Well,
said
yes,
that
I
after
would. Yeah, once you take away all their negative energy and stuff, you think of putting relaxation and healing in their body and having them feel that. So, yes, there is a lot of intention involved in that too. Um, it's not just a matter of putting your hands on somebody and going through the motions. You have to feel those muscles and that pain and um, concentrate on it and feel it go through you and out of you and put good relaxation and peace in them,
so
if that matters.
yeah, it does. No, I hear you. So a few things I want to highlight because things that you've said throughout this that tie into just a pattern that really is throughout healing journeys and throughout the work that we do in the holistic world, whether you're doing massage therapy, whether you're doing energy work like Reiki or sound baths, whatever it is the surrender and trust process. You mentioned that at the very beginning during your beginning journey, and that just now when you were talking about the intention, setting the intention, you were talking about the grounding again. And I'm pointing these out because I feel like this is all stuff that if you spend any time doing this work, whether you're on the receiving end, whether you're on the receiving end and the, sharing end, it's repetitive as far as the same things that you'll find that are always those things that are important that really help mold the journey of healing. Whether it's, whatever it is, the therapeutic massage or the Reiki or whatever, like I talked about. So I want to highlight that because, surrender and trust, setting the intention, the grounding, and then the release. The release is what I was hearing when you were talking about releasing from their body, drawing it up from their feet all the way up through their body, through their head, and then out into your hands and then down the floor. And so I was really thinking of like when we do, releases, when we're releasing the tension or when we're in meditation, setting the intention to release what no longer serves us. I was also thinking when you talked about prayer, it ties into, and I know everyone's practice is different. So if you are someone that's a practitioner. This is my practice. It doesn't mean that it has to be someone else's, but I do a Reiki prayer that I do at the very beginning of my sessions. So when I do intuitive energy sessions, I always begin with a Reiki prayer. And so it made me think of that too, that prayer piece, tying in. And it doesn't have to be, I know people get tied to words too, and I do with certain things. I have certain words that I'm like, doesn't vibe with me. Like, there's certain words because of, some stuff from my background of how I grew up and certain religious aspects of my background. Um, but what I was going to say is whether it's prayer or whether it's, at the very beginning, again, going back to intention, but going into something that you're connecting with that is greater than you, outside of you, for really stepping outside of your ego, is, I guess, what I'm trying to say. Stepping outside of yourself, stepping outside of your ego, and, setting the intention of helping that other person that you're working with. So I thought that was just something really beautiful throughout when I was listening to you share, Mom, that I was kind of drawing from that. Um,
Yeah.
so the other thing I wanted to, ooh, there's a little fuzzies there. Sorry. The other thing that I wanted to kind of ask you about too, in I know I'm kind of jumping all over here, so hang with me. But you know, you owning your business, I want to highlight that because that is something, um, we talked about you stepping into your voice. We talked about you kind of evolving, not just in the way of, learning something completely different for you, being able to work on your own inner healing journey, you helping others, and that in turn also helped you, of course, too, but you helping others and helping others heal, you having this, open heart and compassion for all the different people that walk through your office and everything. But also something I want to really highlight that I think is beautiful to hear and have other people out there hear, and especially those that are going through a difficult marriage, a difficult relationship. It doesn't have to be a marriage, but you were in one. But you didn't ever have your own, you had your own money when you worked window design, but not really. And so when you owned the school, you were able to be in a position of stepping away finally from the abusive relationship that you were in for 22 years. So I wanted you to just kind of, if you don't mind, it doesn't have to be like diving deep into it, but just
Okay.
how was that for you? Because it was really huge for you to step out on your own in a relationship that you were with him like from the time that you were 17 or something, right? Like because you had
22
your brother
years,
at 18, yeah. So,
17. Yeah.
yeah, so what was that like for you to be able to step into your own, be able to be independent woman on your own, um, and have your own, business, owning your own business, and just really step into your own power, really.
Mm. I have to smile because it's so incredible that, looking back, I hadn't thought of the past, the bad stuff, um, very much. Every once in a while, but I pretty much pushed that part of my life out. And so, but this interview has really made me think about it. And it's just an incredible feeling from where I was and how far I've come because it gives hope to anybody I would think, knowing that anything's possible because I always wanted a way. to be able to take care of my children by myself and get out of where I was at. And I was petrified. I didn't know if I would. And so when I bought the school, it, I it was boy, I have so many mixed emotions going on right now. But anyway, when I bought the school, I knew I had to do that because it was my only hope for earning money and being able to take care of you and support the family. Colby was a grown man pretty much by then where he was supporting himself, but to be able to help my children and buy the house on my own from you know past husband. Anyway, it's something that you can't be afraid of doing, making that jump and making a move like that,
Yeah.
jumping into something like that, because I felt like I was a natural at it after a while. I was told I was born natural at doing that by my instructor, and I mentioned that before. But anyway, I knew that I had no choice, and I wanted to buy it, but I didn't even have a dime. So we worked out this deal where each month I paid on the school until it was paid off. And it turned out to be incredible because
You paid on it out of
I
your
kept,
labor hours, right? Out of your time that you
pardon
worked.
me?
You paid for it out of your
Yeah.
labor
Oh,
hours. Yeah.
yes. I'm
You were
sorry.
working a
I
trade.
would, I teach the night class and the day class, and sometimes on weekends until I had the school paid off. And then I was going through the divorce, able to buy the house and waive all child support, do whatever I needed to. It just put me in a fantastic position. And so never be afraid of taking a chance on something that could better your future. It just, there's always going to be something you could do. And, I was very fortunate because I was at the right place at the right time, I guess, too. Timing was the main thing. But, yeah, so, and now I have a fantastic life because I have that past experience. I have a love for people, which makes me so happy because I love being around people. And I like the person I've become through the years.
Yeah.
I really do because I have confidence. Every once in a while, I get hit with something about confidence, but I have a confidence I didn't have before. I have a lot more love now because and I have more to offer to people, even strangers, because I care about everybody. And I don't want to see anybody hurt, but yeah, I hope that's how far I think the school and the business really had me come and helped me to heal.
Yeah.
And I have no grudges, past grudges or anything. Um, I think the best thing one of the best things that ever happened to me was being able to get this goal because it led to a better life for you and for me. And then, I don't know, I think it's affected Colby also, your brother. And so I think all around it just made, and I wouldn't be where I'm at. I wouldn't be married to Mark. I wouldn't be able to fly back and forth to see you if I didn't have a wonderful husband that didn't mind me doing my
Yeah.
thing that I,
Yeah.
so anyway, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a beautiful way of sharing that because I think it is really important for people that do feel stuck in situations, even just by setting the intention. But also, when you were talking, you said something, you said you were in the right place at the right time. But I actually have a little, and this is, coming from me, but I have a little bit different belief there just because I feel um, like I feel like once you set the intention of going and learning massage for the reasons that you did, once you were in that and you start working on your own healing and you start to really step into your own as far as your voice and like who you were and all these different things that were very beautiful that were like opening up like a flower. You were just like becoming this person that you were allowing others to see your light. Um, I think that it's through that and through you having that love grow and through that energy, that expression of energy that you were sharing with others that kind of set that emotion for source, God, universe, whatever people want to use here, but to help kind of support you in that guidance of, you know, the direction you were going, and you were setting that intention out there, putting it out into the universe and everything that you wanted to go in this direction and step away. You were becoming a newer, and that the reason I'm pointing this out is because I've noticed this even in my own healing journey and spiritual journey, but also somebody I was talking to recently was sharing something similar with friendships. When we work on our healing journeys, when we work on our spiritual journeys, you will begin to see that certain things start to fall at the wayside. And that's especially true in relationships. And we will see that there becomes like a point where it's almost like the energy is shifting and that energy is no longer in resonance with what was. And so because of that, that other thing is starting to fall away. And so like I almost wonder if that was part of it too. Like I feel like that had to been, but part of it too with you know, how how I don't want to say it was a clean break, but it was a beautiful play, you know, a beautiful break for you with everything that unfolded the way that it did and the
Yeah.
time that it did, the, you know, because it was, you know, yeah. So I just wanted to share that with others and point that out because I really think that that speaks to, you know, you setting the wheels in motion for your intention of what you were wanting to do and when you were working on things for yourself and everything. Um, the other thing, and I know I keep bouncing around all over the place, but I keep thinking of different things too. But I wanted you to share, you know, just one of the little fun things that I think about going back to all the different people that we met through the massage therapy school. But I always think of like where you, because so my mom had two different massage therapy schools. She had one that was in this really cool little like nook corner of like, you know, Campbell area, but it was in this cool little corner like street area. It had an upstairs area. It had this really cool hidden back room. I used to go hide in when I was a kid and get into all kinds of mischief. Also used to play my Atari back there. But I remember some of the people that lived in that area, and I remember like one house that we went to one time. They had like a coffin as a like a coffee table. I don't know if you remember that. There's like the neighborhood.
Oh, yes. Actually,
It was kind of wild.
she wound up buying the building a few
Oh, did
years
she?
later, but
Okay,
yes,
so that was only
she
about, it was a
she
really
was a
cool building.
hairdresser.
Okay.
Her and her husband were
I just remember the
hairdressers,
house
and
was
they were
wild.
into some really gothic, weird stuff.
It
But
was
yeah.
fun. It was different. And then I remember
Mm.
like two doors down or three doors down from that, I remember the rainbow colored picket fence with the yoga guy with the potbelly
Oh,
pig that he'd walk around at the festivals and stuff. And I always loved seeing him because I was just like, here's this cheerful dude that's just, you know, it was so much fun. I loved it. But it was
yeah.
such a fun environment. And I really think that's like yet another thing too is like so where I'm going with this is again going back to how many different people would be drawn to the school, how many different people you would meet, even at the fairs, which we didn't even get into. But I remember you bringing your massage chairs and massage tables to the fairs, and me helping you and hanging out with you and everything, and the tent and everything while you meet people. But just you meet so many different people, and I think that when you are really working in and I want to use the word purpose here. And I know that sometimes when we think of purpose, we think of like our soul's purpose, right? We think of this big, massive thing. And a lot of times people relate to work. And in this particular case, we are talking about something that was work related. However, I feel like this was so much bigger than that, because I think that it really was working in your soul journey of your everything that we talked about, the healing and everything. You were sharing it with the world. You had your light. You were like, your inner light was just shining bright for all to see. People were drawn to you because of that, you know. And I got to see how many people were always attracted to that school and attracted to what you were sharing there, the gifts that you were sharing. And that was really beautiful. Can you maybe share about a couple, maybe are there two or three times that stand out to you that where you really had the feeling of this is so much bigger than just a normal job? Like this is, you know what I mean?
Oh gosh, yeah. Um, I would some of my clients, when I'd work on them and stuff, they just they would one in particular just opened up and start crying and releasing so much. And she apologized to me, and I said, please don't apologize. I said, you have so much emotion going on and need a release. And it just, and clients would want to hug me, and you know just it warms my heart to think of it, because they were so thankful, a lot of them, after being worked on, that they'd hug you and stuff, and some with tears in their eyes, whatever. And then others, you remember one of the clients, his wife came to me a few times too, but he came because he needed the deep tissue. He was a lawyer and had money, so he tipped very highly, which um, you would come and wait in my office, and I remember he'd say, this is for Christmas. Take Serena out and
Oh,
go have fun. Or I don't know if you remember that client or not, but he appreciated the work because it helped him so much, with his workouts and stuff, because he worked out at the gym and stuff. But that was one client I really remember. And then the girl that really cried and on my table and was releasing so much. And but yeah,
yeah.
it
That's,
it it, it makes you feel really good inside knowing you're helping these people. And I never had a really negative experience from a client that I worked on where, you know, they were mad, or it brought out anger in them or whatever. It
yeah.
just brought out the peace in them and them feeling better and getting rid of their stress. So,
And yeah, and I would even say joy is coming to mind. Like just I keep seeing joy
oh,
in my
well,
head
yeah.
because I remember even just like I'm going based off of your students because I feel like I spent probably the most time like in your I got to learn too. So I used to love doing your little anatomy sheets and your tests that you would have for your students. Like I used to love doing
Yeah,
those. But I was kind
yeah.
of a nerd. But but anyways, when I wasn't doing anatomy sheets and I wasn't playing Atari, I used to love to listen in on the class and be a guinea pig and get to have the massages by your students, which were amazing.
Hmm.
But the part that I was going to say is I remember your students like it was just like such a warm environment that everybody had this joy. And I think it came from, again, coming from that light that you were sharing with everyone, but coming from when you go through something like that, where you're going through healing and in a communal way, where it's where it's community, you're coming together. You're healing together because those students were, when you're learning techniques, you're learning these different things, you're on the receiving end, you're working through stuff that maybe you weren't even thinking were going to come up and it's coming out on the massage table. Like you're going through something together. I went through something similar in my 200-hour yoga teacher training. When you're going through these different things, you're, going through it together, these deep emotions, like it really does like bond you. And I just remember everybody was like so joyful. And I think it's because they had that process that they were dealing with together.
Mhm.
And because that's the other thing that was coming to mind too, is how it was all about community, bringing people together from all walks of life that shared this, commonality of, wanting to help one another and wanting to help the world, which we all need today. Let me tell you, it's just like
Oh, definitely.
we all need to have that because, like I was saying earlier, I think that there's a lot of icky stuff out there, and obviously there's lots of things that could be fearful based and fear based is what I'm trying to say, and all that. And especially if somebody that doesn't have a strong conviction of where they're at on their spiritual path and everything, it could be even more scary. But when we come together, even when we are so uniquely different, which is what makes us so beautiful, is the fact that we're all different, but coming together in a way where we're working on our healing and helping one another. That is a very joyful thing and a beautiful thing. So I just wanted to kind of share about that too. The other thing I was hoping to talk about a little bit, and I know that we're starting to get close to the hour mark here, but and I'm going to jump around a little bit too, but first, I would like for you, because something you said a few minutes ago about your clients and whatnot. How did you not, at the end of the night or the end of the day, bring home all that gunk with you? And by gunk, I mean like, I know you were talking about the grounding and drawing stuff out down your feet. But can you maybe share of a time where maybe you took on the person's energy when you did not mean to? And then could you maybe share on how you try to set boundaries and how you try to prevent that so that you weren't taking home their emotions, their baggage, their physical. And by the way, you guys, I want to share this really quick. Sorry, Mom, just really quick. But the physical part, because you reminded me of this just recently, a few months back. But I was working on my partner, my husband, and when I was working on him, I was working on him on a nightly basis. And I had shared this with you that all of a sudden the next day, I was like, my same side of where I was working on him, my whole shoulder, my neck, everything was like how he was when I was working on him the night before. And he was loosened up, but I was then completely tired. And you're like, well, did you ground? And I was like, I didn't think of grounding when I was working on him for massage therapy or for when I was doing massage
Hmm.
on him. So it was funny because I was like, you were the one that reminded me. But anyways, how do you not, or what was in place for you so you weren't taking on the emotional baggage and taking everything home with you? How were you able to leave
Right.
it at the door or leave it at the table?
Okay. With the school, it was very easy to get rid of all that because I created an atmosphere, the surrounding, not just the soft music and setting the mood. Because it was so infectious because I had somebody paint the school, the classroom, a light pale blue like the sky. And I had this beautiful picture on the wall of the ocean with the whale in it that was very calming and relaxing. The music was incredible and relaxing. And then, we all dressed comfortable. I had a tendency, I always wore white pants with the tank top, so I could move around freely and stuff. But it was a professional atmosphere for one thing. It was a very calming atmosphere. And so even when people had these negative vibes about them and you work on them, I mentioned a couple of them, and how I didn't ground myself enough, apparently, because I picked up that pain and emotion and I was just wiped out. But I got better and better at it. And the school was such an incredible atmosphere that I was able to leave everything as soon as I walked in there. from being at home and not such a good environment at the time. I'd walk in the school and it was my escape from reality all the time. And whatever I had to deal with that day was, you know, you learn to let it go um, through everything, through my surroundings, through the grounding, and just it was the peaceful place that it was helped me not take that home.
Yeah.
I was able to leave there because it was such a beautiful place to be all the time. The atmosphere was just incredible, and the people wanted to be there.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you, Mom. Um,
You're welcome.
the the other thing in the way you said that, I'm sorry. The other thing I wanted to share is because when you were talking, for those out there, I see stuff. So for me, it's visual. So, anyways, as she was talking about stuff, I was seeing her hands. Um, so I wanted to touch on this too because I shared on, I think it was Yolanda's podcast, the Reiki Radio podcast. But when I had my spiritual shift, I remember I was at your house where you're living now. This was back in 2019. But I remember I was not doing Reiki at that time. I hadn't taken any classes, I hadn't done any training, I hadn't been on the receiving end of Reiki, like none of it. And I had this spiritual shift while I was at your house, where it really did feel like somebody had flipped a light switch on for me. Like my sensory was turned way up beyond anything I had ever experienced. But I remember sitting in your birdcage chair outside, and I had done like a 35-minute meditation or something. And I remember part of that was like a past life thing that I had gone through. And I had this experience when I came out of it and I opened my eyes and I remember looking down, seeing they were my hands, but they were actually like your hands type thing. They look like your hands. And the reason I point this out is because my mom, something I remember from growing up, you had these really strong, kind of vascular, veiny hands that used to freak me out as a kid. I feel bad saying, but now I'm like, oh, they're healing hands. So, but but anyways, but I'm pointing, yeah, but I'm pointing it out because as you were talking about everything, I was thinking about it because your hands used to radiate heat even when you weren't doing massage therapy. And I wanted to share that and speak of that as far as what you were doing because we touched on the intention and the grounding and the release. And in case it wasn't clear to anybody, even though you hadn't gone through quote unquote, training for energy healing and something like, Reiki, you really were doing energy work. I mean, you were really helping people release. You weren't just working with the muscles and the fascia,
Yeah.
stuff like that. You were like doing energy flow too and working with energy. And I believe that's why your hands back then used to radiate heat even when you weren't working on people. You had this insane like power. You could like feel it like, from a distance from you. But anyways, I just wanted to kind of point that out. I don't know that there was a question there. To be honest, I think I kind of lost my train of
Doesn't sound
thought.
like it.
I lost my train of thought there. But it was something that I had wanted to point out because I was trying to point out these different kind of conclusions that I was kind of drawing from it, but also because I had seen your hands as you were talking and I was wanting to share about that. So, you did ultimately end up selling the school. I could go on and on about that because at the time I was bummed. I was kind of a little turd back then because I was in high school and I was kind of doing my own thing and just on the bratty mode there. But full circle now with what I'm doing today. Like I remember like a few years back asking you, I'm like, well, what would it take for you to get back into massage therapy and like so you could certify people again and blah blah blah. Like you and I talked about it,
Mm.
but like what was the deciding factor? Like how did you decide that it was time for you to kind of say goodbye and close those massage doors for you? I know that somebody ended up buying the school, but what was kind of like felt like it was the right timing for you?
Well, there are a couple things. Um, Timing again, but somebody that wanted the school had come to see me when I moved the location to another area in Campbell and wanted to buy the school. And after teaching the night and day class and then trying to add some sports massage and deep tissue on weekends, it was just, I had instructors to help, but then I wound up doing the night classes and stuff. And your stepdad, we hadn't been married all that long, but anyway, um, we weren't seeing as much of each other as I wanted to, and he wanted to. And I felt like this would be a good thing because it's time for me to take a little time off and, spend more time at home. And so it just worked out. It was timing again,
Yeah.
where being offered somebody, coming to me that wanted that school as much as I did. And it just seemed like the right thing to do at the time. And I'm not sorry that I sold it. I miss it because it was some of the best years. Um, and it was such a beautiful place to be. But yeah, it was right timing. So
Nice. And what was it? It was I because I know it was at least you had that well, you were in the business for like 10 years, but you had the school for
yeah,
about 10 years too, right?
a little well,
Because I know
less
I
than
was
a
in
little
high
less, but
school.
yeah,
I know I
yeah.
was at least a freshman. I'm pretty sure I was a sophomore when you sold
Hmm.
it.
You were
So
15, I think, when I sold it.
yeah, so that would have been like 95, I think. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
95, right? Am I doing the math?
about
Oh,
95. Yeah,
96.
yeah.
Well, yeah. Yeah,
No,
95.
somewhere in there. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. Yeah. I remember I was still taking the bus during that time. So that's how I like determine the timeline. I'm like, I was still taking the bus to your school. Um, wow. Yeah. I I just wanted to kind of ask you in closing two questions to you. One, just for others, because we obviously did touch on your healing journey and the background that you came from with the trauma, with the physical abuse, with emotional abuse. We didn't get into exactly what that was and paint a picture for everyone, but it really was 22 years of it. So for somebody else that's listening, for someone else that has a friend or a family member that is in a you know situation, or maybe they're no longer in this situation. Let's just say that they still have that in the background as far as they're wanting to work on their healing journey. What would you kind of say as encouragement for them if they feel like I'm going to call them wounds because we all have wounds, right? But what would you say to them as far as if they feel like their wounds are too much for going into sharing healing with others because they're worried about, oh, well, I have, so much more healing to do. Like, what is your whole thought process on that being where you were and how you did healing along the way while helping others?
Never be afraid to let yourself go and to get the help you need or get involved in something that will help heal you. In my case, it was the massage. But there's so many things out there that could help you, whether it's talking to somebody, whether it's, massage like I did, um, just getting out there and, a lot of prayer worked for me too. So we all have things that could help us.
Yeah.
You just have to open up. And I know that's so hard for so many people because it was hard for me. My family didn't know what was going on. My children did, but my sisters and brothers, my parents, there were no way I wanted them to ever know how I was living.
Yeah.
But yeah, never give up hope. There's always hope.
Thank you. And thank you for being so vulnerable and for sharing your story too.
It's
I
okay.
really appreciate it. It's okay. I'm teasing you a little bit. I like to tease my mom. Uh,
Yes, she
I
does.
wanted to share on that too. That same question, if you don't mind, I want to actually
Go
answer on
ahead.
that too, because obviously, like growing up in the household that I grew up in, and then also having some relationships along the way that were not conducive to my emotional state and physical state and such. Um, I want to speak on that too because I have been on a healing journey for many years now. The massage therapy was the first time I started to go through my own healing was in the school, because that really did help me too with what I was going through at the time. It was a very safe environment for me to be in, to feel safe, to just be me and be a kid. But then also when I stepped down on my own, when I got, older and I went through some other relationship things that weren't great, um, the the healing that has helped me is also through not just healing myself, not just going through, and it's a continued process, right? We're never done. I feel like we're always working on ourselves, always working to improve and connect with ourselves and, connect with others. But those same things that I offer to others still continues to help me along my path. And part of the reason why I have stepped into this environment of what I've stepped into, which I do intuitive energy sessions. I do intuitive card readings. I do sound baths, although those are special events now that I do in my sacred sound tent that I'm actually filming from today. But the reason I stepped into this world and how it kind of came from, full circle for me really was coming from where I was at, which was a darker place at the time. I shouldn't have been in a dark place, but, I had my own healing to go through. And really, as I've gone through my different trainings, but also as I've worked with others in particular, it has brought so much joy to my heart. So, for anybody that has thought of getting into the holistic world or getting into, even if it's not the holistic world, just anything that you're wanting to get into where you do worry that, you're where you come from is too much for others. I would say don't worry about that. I would say continue to work on yourself, continue to work with others because it's going to be that you share with others, opening your heart, sharing your light, that's going to help those others. It's also going to help you in return, and help you along the journey. And that's part of what all this is about, is so that we could connect with others and connect with ourselves and connect with Source, God, Universe, Divine, whatever you want to put there. So, anyways, I want to thank you again, Mom, for coming on the show. Thank you for sharing so openly. We had a few laughs, and hopefully, I won't have to edit this too much. The
Okay.
bicycle gang. So
Oh
thank
my
you.
gosh.
Until
You're
next
welcome,
time.
sweetheart.
Thank you for joining Conscious Consumption. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Mom. I'm
Thank
gonna
you.
hang up.